Czechast, a podcast in English about Czech and Moravian society, history, culture and economy.
Hello and welcome to Czechast, the podcast about all things Czech, the past and the present, the big stories and the smaller ones. Today I want to share a conversation unlike most you'll hear. It's with Jan Trčka, a Czech volunteer who fights in Ukraine. You may have heard parts of this interview on Radio Prague International, but this is the full unabridged version, raw and I think deeply human. Why do I think it matters to hear it now? Well, in recent days I had the honor to take part in the Global Health Initiative for Ukraine. It brought together Czech companies and experts delivering medical technology and support to a country devastated by war. A country where hospitals are under attack, where doctors treat civilians and soldiers under relentless pressure, and where hope can be as fragile as a bandage in a blast zone. This all unfolds as Europe marks 80 years since the end of World War II. Back then, Czechoslovaks fought in foreign lands for their country's freedom. Today, people like Jan Trčka are doing the same, fighting not just for Ukraine, but for values we still hold dear.
I'm a Christian. I identify as a Christian and I believe in God because I saw so many miracles here already in Ukraine that God is my witness and God is our protector. Everything will work out and there is no understanding and no doubt that it will be anyhow otherwise, because we are not talking about peace or war in Ukraine. We are talking about world order. We are talking about West. We are talking about democracy. We are talking about freedom. And we are standing literally good versus evil, West versus East, the democracy and independence and freedom against authoritative, totalitarian regime.
For Jan, the war is more than a territorial dispute. It's a battle between two visions of the world: freedom and democracy on one side, tyranny and fear on the other. But ideals don't shield you from tanks or rockets, and every day Jan faces a force with far more resources and manpower.
They have up to 5 times more people, and they have several times more money and financing for their war effort. At this point, a really huge part of their GDP is going just to war effort because they switched all infrastructure, all industry just to war effort. So, of course, we doubt ourselves and we have these moments when the struggle seems lost. But we don't have any choice. This is our home. We don't have anywhere to withdraw. We don't have anywhere to leave. This is our home and we are fighting for it.
And that fight comes at a cost. In the next few minutes, you'll hear, among other things, how Jan recalls what he calls his most dramatic moment on the battlefield, one that nearly ended his life.
I almost died on my last mission where I was fighting on close distance of 150 meters, which is around 450 feet, with two the most modern Russian tanks, T-92M Prorif, which exactly knew where we are and tried to kill us for 8 hours.
And yet, despite the violence, there are moments of irony. Even politics, far away, chaotic and unpredictable, can have strange ripple effects in a war zone.
So the more craziness, more insane and more Russian narrative Trump is saying is the poisoning and he's insulting Americans, which are much more prone to help us. So actually, worldwide, but mainly in the US, people are helping incomparably more than before Trump presidency.
So I think Jan Trčka's story is more than a war story. It's a testimony to belief, endurance, and the reality of war in the 21st century. A war that's closer to us here in Czechia than we might like to admit. So stay with us for this extraordinary conversation.
Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. Whether you're an English-speaking expat living in Czechia and Slovakia, or a descendant of the Czechs, Moravians and Slovaks who left for a better life in America, Australia, Britain or Canada so long ago that you don't speak the language of the old country, this podcast in English is for you.
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate each and every opportunity to speak on our behalf, because our cause is not just critical for Ukraine, but also critical for Europe and the West as a whole, as I believe. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jan Trčka. My call sign is Santa, and Santa is going from the beginning of my journey here in Ukraine. I came here third day of the war, so at this point I am the longest serving legionnaire in Ukraine. It means that not just I came as a first, but also that I'm here without any interruption till this day. One of my friends from the beginning of this journey told me it's not about the people who are here first, but about the people who will stay till the end. And I am, with all modesty, trying to create a third category of the people who came at the beginning and stay till the end. Sometimes, jokingly, I'm saying that I will be here not just till the victory, but also till Ukraine will be accepted to European Union and NATO, just to be sure. But of course, because of what's happening at this point, we'll see how much and how fast you'll get there. But I do believe all of these things will happen in a time. That's about my call sign. As I said, I came here on the third day of the war. Second day of the war, when I was in my company in Czech Republic with my employees as business director of largest mortgage providing company. I was on lunch close to my offices, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky asked for volunteers in a live stream. I did not even finish lunch. I came home, I took a t-shirt, trousers, extra shoes. I write Last Testament. I say bye to my parents, and I went to Ukraine. I came after 60 hours of drive with many issues because they didn't want to let me into Ukraine because of the war and stuff like that. Luckily, I get to Ukraine. I spent a few days in Lviv searching for a unit or a military base where I can be accepted. After a few days, I found such a place, and I joined Ukraine Armed Forces on 1st of March 2022. And since that day, I'm here and I'm serving in various roles and various positions. But what's the most important for me, I'm serving all the time just for International Legion for Defense of Ukraine, meaning coalition of volunteers from all over the world. At this point, we have 55 nationalities fighting all together, whole world connected together inside International Legion for the future and for the security of Ukraine, Europe and the West.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned, I think, 56 nationalities, right, in the International Legion?
Yeah,
55, sorry. I would assume there are a lot of Poles. Are there a lot of Czechs as well?
There is a lot of Czechs, there is a lot of Poles, you are right. It's not just because we are close to Ukraine, but it's also that these nationalities, especially Poles and especially Czechs, know how it feels to be occupied or under heavy influence of imperialistic Russia and their communist ideologies. So we who better understand have much higher and cleaner motivation to actually fight, because for us it's much more fighting for what's ours rather than for security concerns or anything else.
Can you share just roughly whereabouts are you in Ukraine? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, it's completely okay. I'm in Kharkiv at this point, and Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine. It's about 1.5 million people, which is almost similar or the same to Prague, which has the same amount of people. We are very close to Russian borders, something around 20 or 30 kilometers, and we are actually fighting 15 kilometers from Kharkiv. So we are bombed on daily basis. We have casualties on weekly basis, and we are fighting just 50 kilometers from Kharkiv. So no matter it's a major city with 1.5 million people, we hear, we see, and we are involved in all this fighting. Just 2 weeks ago, the military hospital, which is in a city center of Kharkiv, was bombed naturally as Russians because those are their favorite targets. So that's our position. It's also position of our main base as 3rd Battalion of Special Forces within International Legion, which I'm part of. And from here, we move forward wherever we are the most needed. So at this point, we are fighting in Kharkiv region, defending another open Russian front. And slowly at this point, we are also moving to Luhansk region. Luhansk region is close by to Kharkiv region, and it's also by accident the same region I was fighting in end of year 2022 till beginning of the year 2023, where I was part of fighting forces within our battalion. Before that and after that, I was working in logistics. Before that, since the beginning, when I signed my contract, I was in military base close by Lviv, which was also bombed on 13th of 3rd, which is famous airstrike. Russians call it, we killed hundreds of foreign fighters. I was there. There was 0 death. Of course, naturally, you can recognize how Russians are lying. They're usually moving the mouth. That's how you can recognize it. And I became part of, let's say, command structure. And our task was officially found Foreign Legion within Ukrainian armed forces, which is actually the project in progress till this day. As I became part of these command forces, with the task of founding the legion, I moved from that base further to Rivne for training, which is mandatory for all foreign fighters or Ukrainian fighters, no matter what. And from there, I was scheduled to move to Kharkiv to join at that time our fighting forces, but I was called to command of land forces, command of all forces fighting on the ground, to Kiev, to the office where I continue with this mission of founding the Legion and providing as much support logistically as possible at that time. After that, as I said, I was fighting since September till January 2023. And after 4.5 months of fighting, where I almost died on my last mission, where I was fighting on close distance of 150 meters, which is around 450 feet, with 2 the most modern Russian tanks, T-92M Prorif, which exactly knew where we are and tried to kill us for 8 hours. Luckily, we survived, and after that, as I was praying to God, if you let me live, I will quit fighting and I will work in support role of logistics. Since that time, I'm working in benefit of battalion and our fighting forces in logistics with focus on our foreign support. And because of my previous business experiences, and because I'm here since the beginning, and because I'm Christian and honest, and money doesn't mean that much to me, as I call myself uncorruptible, not taking even chicken soup from our fighting units, which was intended to the front line. People trust me, and I'm working as a trustee between the people in foreign countries who wants to help as much and as effectively as possible, and our fighting units on the front line. I'm creating this intermediary, which is making sure that 100% of the money you dedicate to support us or you send us will get to the purchases of the items and equipment we need to fight, to survive, and to be comfortable in the environment which we are. So that's about my introduction in a short.
I think you already indicated it, but okay, now you work in logistics. You are kind of intermediary between the people who want to help, probably mostly in the West, and Ukrainian military. But when you said I was fighting and you were fighting against tanks, for people who have never been to war, what sort of fighting are you talking about? What were you doing?
Yeah, so to be a bit more specific, there are 3 kinds of war or 3 levels of intensity of war. high intensity is typical First World War and Second World War. It means that millions of people are going against each other and tens of thousands of people are dying every week. We don't have that here. And you can imagine this either from historic movies or from the movie, for example, recently on Netflix, Quiet on the West Front, which is the closest to what we are actually experiencing here right now. The medium intensity means what we have here, which is around 1.5 million people, soldiers on the side of Ukraine, and 1.8 million Russian soldiers on their side, and going against each other with thousands of death every week. Then you have low intensity wars, and that's usually American wars, meaning we invaded Afghanistan, we have invaded Iraq, we had invaded in the name of spread of democracy and other reasons, these countries where you have much stronger army on one side, and you have some usually rebellions or volunteer fighters on the other side. Here it's very different story. As I said, we have this medium intensity war where we are actually standing in many cases against the stronger, more powerful and better equipped the enemy. As I'm saying, it's some cases, it's not all the cases, and it's very specific and vary on the type of the fight which we are waging. For example, when we are doing the interviews, we are informing our recruits that in many cases or in some cases, we will be standing up against more soldiers, more tanks, more air support, more airstrikes, and all of this. Luckily, because we have foreign support mainly from US and now getting more from even from Europe, we have more quality equipment, which is more precise. So no matter that we have less of this, we are more effective. And in many cases, we are getting on a par with Russian army. And as you may have heard, during these last years of war, world fought that Russia has the second largest army. But as we see in Ukraine, Russia became second largest army in Ukraine. And when you saw last year, when Prigozhin tried to make a coup in Moscow, when he took his Wagner's armies or Wagner soldiers against Moscow, we could see that the Russian army was actually second, even in Russia. So all this porcelain or this glass elephant is breaking, and we are seeing that Russia is nothing more than a group of chaotic, barely organized, mobilized people which doesn't want to be here, which doesn't want to fight, which doesn't want to die for no reason, fighting sovereign, independent country of Ukraine. And we believe and we are here to defend, to protect, and to win. And we believe we will be able to do so in next years.
You are absolutely right that the Russian army, even during the first days, when a lot of people around the world, I dare say majority of people thought that, Kiev is going to fall pretty soon. President Zelensky is probably going to run away somewhere in the West. And they failed. Nevertheless, there are so many Russians. They have such huge reserves. Doesn't that at least make you doubt a little bit about the result of the war, whether Ukraine is able in long term to defend itself?
If we doubt ourselves standing.
Yeah, because Russians are so numerous, and no matter how chaotic they might be, it's just the sheer numbers, the reserves that they have, that make them, unfortunately, very strong.
Yeah, they have up to 5 times more people, and they have several times more money and financing for their war effort. At this point, really huge part of their GDP is going just to war effort, because they switched all infrastructure, all industry just to war effort. So, of course, we doubt ourselves, and we have these moments when the struggle seems lost. But we don't have any choice. This is our home. We don't have anywhere to withdraw. We don't have anywhere to leave. This is our home, and we are fighting for it. We as a soldiers has a saying that we are standing on the line because behind us are women, elderly, and the children, which we need to defend. And we are standing against this evil, against this Russian imperialistic kingdom trying to conquer the world. As they are saying themselves trying to do, and we are standing against it. So we are not protecting just the women and and children behind us, we're protecting also Europe. And mainly we are protecting the West, the democratic, independent Christian values which we have on the West. That's what we are actually defending. And I was in another interview like 9 months ago, and I had the question, what would mean the peace for us, or how we would deal with the peace, or how we are thinking about the peace. And I explained that there is not, and there will not be any peace with Russia, because peace for Russia would mean implosion. Russians, as their imperialistic kingdom or imperialistic empire, their basis is on expansion. And if they will stop expanding, they will collapse. As I said in that interview, there is no chance for Russia to stop and to start asking questions about their internal politics, about issues they have in Russia, like not having freedom, like not having freedom of speech, like not having internet, which many people doesn't know, that to be able to get the phone number or internet access in Russia, you need to go to 3 or 4 different government entities to get this permission. So they have 100% certainty that everything you say, everything you read, everything you share is controlled by the government. So there is no chance that any information about what's actually happening in the world, how much casualties they have, how they are destroying their own country, that nobody knows. And that's actually the difference between a narrative which is for Ukraine and narrative which is against Ukraine and for Russians. Usually, when people are pro-Ukrainian, they are informed because we have free and independent media. I can say anything, even about our president Volodymyr Zelensky, because we have all of these values. If you are in Russia and you are interviewed and you are asked, what do you think about our army, about special military operation, so-called, as they say it, and you say anything negative, you go 5 to 7 years to prison. So naturally, nobody says anything. But people, many times, don't know this, and they compare Russia and Ukraine as sovereign sides and picking in between them. But there is no picking. On one side, there is democracy, independence, freedom of speech, and being part of the West. And then on the other side, you have virtually Russia, China, which are communist parties, without freedom of speech, without any of these values which we hold inside us very valuable. There is North Korea, there is Iran, there is Sudan, and these countries, as we may see on the last resolution about aggression of Russia, which was called in UN, when USA unfortunately stamped for the first time on a side with Russia, with Iran, with Sudan, with North Korea as a group. So unfortunately, we are getting to the situation where we cannot anymore trust Americans. And I can tell you, it all started, of course, a bit sooner, but it escalated during interview of President Trump and our President Volodymyr Zelensky in Oval Office, where all this craziness on all hell let loose. And since that time, we know we cannot rely on Americans. We know we cannot trust Americans. We know we can now see, and it really already changed, any support from USA as a bonus. As a bonus from what we have inside already from us within Ukraine and from our European partners. So there's the change which happened recently, and there's the thing which makes it much harder. But no matter that, there is nothing which will stop us from defending our home.
You are on the ground. Can you actually feel the kind of shortage, I suppose, of material and support from the side of the United States? Is it already felt, really, or is it a thing that will gradually become more and more kind of pressing?
You need to divide these questions to two parts. One is macro and one is micro. Macro meaning you are asking about support of whole Ukrainian army. And another is support of us as a foreigners fighting within international legion. So let's start with the army. We will feel this within next 5 or 6 months because we have stocks of all the weapons and all the shells and everything. So if Americans will continue this narrative that actually war in Europe is not that important, as Trump and Rubio are saying recently, and they may focus on somewhere differently because now everybody sees that and I will not speak about the American president anyhow badly. We all know who he is and how he behaves and what his mental status is. He said, I will solve it in one day, even before I will become president. Naturally, he will never do this. He will never solve it even during his presidency because he just ensured he will never do it. So we will feel this within 6 months. We are getting ready. And because our European partners understand this, we are ramping up. So Rheinmetall, for example, largest German manufacturing shell company, was manufacturing something around 75,000 shells a year before war. First year of war, they started about, I think, 150, 200,000. Then next year, 33, it was something around 500,000. Last year it was 750,000. Next year it will be possibly 1.5 million, which is much more than Americans, for example, will be producing. So Europe is ramping up. Europe is ramping up its military industry, its armies, and becoming the partner to be as a new partner instead of US, which is actually not willing, unfortunately, which is not willing anyway, to continue with our support. So that's macro look. Micro look is completely different, which is kind of shocking. So the more craziness, more insane and more irrational narrative Trump is saying is poisoning and he's insulting Americans, which are much more prone to help us. So actually, worldwide, but mainly in the US, people are helping incomparably more than before. I mean, before Trump presidency. So what we were trying to raise, whichever help I as a logistic representative for foreign help was trying to achieve before Trump's presidency, within 3 months, we can now get within a week. So in a way, we are blessed with health, craziness, and all this negativity coming from Trump because people are seeing it, people are understanding it, people know that peace is the basis for all modern life and democracy. And they are helping much more to support us, to help us win this. And you can see, for example, on a Czech organization called Foundation for Ukraine, which raised last month for Apache helicopter for $3 million. They raised also for a tank year before. They are raising another $2 million for artillery systems and so on. So you can see the people all around the world, also because of what's doing Trump, are helping much more. And this is to great benefit to us.
That's great news, actually, to hear that. I never thought about it that way because seen from the outside, whatever we think about the present American administration, it was to be expected that, there was going to be skepticism. And I think the world has had experience with Donald Trump during his first presidency. So basically, they are just doing what they said that they were, going to do. But I never realized that there was going to be this, if I understand correctly, the surge of the kind of public support, general public support for you, right?
I would say that you are partially right, because no matter that everybody knows what kind of to expect from President Trump, nobody in the whole world expected this level of insanity, because he's not just lying about resolving the war within one day. It's also about waging now trade war, not just with actually Ukraine or Europe or China, but the whole world, except Russia, actually. And except the iron, iron they will do something about, but they are protecting Russia. They are running their narrative. I mean, there are doubts in Ukraine if Trump is not this Krasnov, this Russian asset. And please, I don't watch these InfoWars or anything. I'm not conspiracy theorist in any way or measure, but just take a step back And let's say that you were just born or you wake up from coma and somebody will describe you what Trump is doing. You would come to the same conclusion.
You are listening to Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. I'm Vít Pohanka, and today my guest is Jan Trčka, a Czech volunteer fighting in Ukraine for freedom and democracy.
If we can come back to the kind of more personal level, I think you mentioned at the beginning that you haven't returned to Czechia ever since you came to Ukraine more than 3 years ago, right?
I was actually once in Czechia to see my family and to have opportunity to take one vacation, because I'm not taking vacation. It's war. I don't believe people should take vacation, or people should use it in that case, or at least for myself, because I'm in a rear and the danger is not as much, but at the same time the stress is extreme because I feel responsibility for getting the items and equipment which we need. I took this vacation. I was for a week in Czech Republic, and it was an exciting experience. Not because I was able to see after years my family, but because there was no shelling. There was no bombing. There was no airstrikes. There was no probability that I will die any minute, as it is now. So that was amazing. Another experience was I was walking outside at the evening and I got super stressed, and I was thinking, why I'm getting stressed when I'm on vacation. And I realized that I'm checking my watches if we are getting till 11 p.m., which means in Ukraine a curfew. And there is no curfew naturally in Czech Republic. I didn't realize it. It's so much embedded in me that I just felt uncomfortable going outside after this time, which we don't do in Ukraine for security reasons. So it was amazing. Last year, I got amazing opportunity to join a sniper training in the US. So I was in New York. I was hosted by Malcolm Nance, very famous American, which was working as an MSNBC political security correspondent. So I was able to expand my knowledge as a sniper, which I was here, or I am still, no matter I'm doing logistics. This was my combat specialty. So I was able to advance my fighting capabilities, because as it was before and as it is now, there are still possibilities that the Russians will break some of the lines and they will attack Kharkiv from close distance. And in that case, we all have to be ready to defend our home, our country, our neighbors, and our countrymen. So that was 2 vacations which I took. This year, I would really like to finish all the projects which I have running at this point. I'm running around 12 projects, different projects, smaller and bigger, to raise for certain teams, to certain equipment, for certain things. And I'm completely exhausted. So I hope if I will be able to finish it within the next 2 or 3 months, I will take a month vacation where I will just lay somewhere and just get some rest. At this point, I'm really proud to say, among all other things, that after we will finish this open project, it will be altogether something around $750,000, which I was, in all modesty, was able to bring here to Ukraine. And I have this metric for the money, which I have since the beginning of the war, and it still applies, same as Moore's law about the computers. So we can take one Russian life of aggressor for $1,000, because it's usually 2 FPV drones. We are pretty sure that we can kill one Russian with 2 FPV drones. It's $1,000. At the same time, we can save one Western life, either it's European or American or any other country, because we have all of them. And it's for $5,000, because if you want to save somebody, you need proper equipment like night vision, thermoscopes, scopes in general. You need proper shoes, proper dress, proper equipment, proper medicine, and all of this to be able to do everything in our power to save everyone before death. And we are doing great job in those regards. And it's it's a huge difference between us, for example, and Russians in these regards. where a Russian life will literally doesn't have any value whatsoever. They will send you fight without being able to walk. They will send you to fight while you are bleeding. They will send you to fight while you are wounded and not able to fight because they don't care. Your life in Russia doesn't have any value. They have a lot of people. As they are Russian saying, "Nas mnogo." It means there is plenty of us. So they will just send these midwaves one by one. And we witness in Bakhmut, fortress of Ukraine, where we were fighting and we had a lot of casualties at the time, that Russians are sending soldiers with wooden sticks in their hands. Same as in Stalingrad, where they send one soldier with the weapon and the soldier behind them without weapon, waiting the first soldier to die, then take his weapon and fight further. And that is still happening here. So, I hope I answered that question.
You did answer the question, but you got a little kind of, further away. Let me just ask you, what about your family? What do they think about it? Don't they try to persuade you to come back home? I mean, they must be worried about you.
Yeah, sure. They are really worried because mainly when I was fighting, we had a lot of casualties and a lot of my brothers died. I visited so many funerals in 3 years, as most people does not visit in several lifetimes. So the danger is imminent. But let me rephrase the question. I mean, I'm one person. I'm one guy from Czech Republic. I had some company. I have fiance. I have my dogs. I have my life. Before I left, I sacrificed and gave everything to Ukraine and risk everything for Ukraine because I feel as a part, mainly as European, and Ukraine as a part of Europe. It's our country. It's our land. No matter if I'm closer or farther from the borders of Ukraine and Russia. So yes, they are worried, but they understand what I understood and I explained them. I'm just one person, and because of the level of support and level of trust I built in us to foreign help, we get so much help that I was indirectly able to save tens of lives. And I got to the point, as they say in Buddhism, when you look at yourself, you see your problems. When you look at other people, you see opportunities. And I see indefinite amount of opportunities. And after I got the 10th and 20th and 30th message that I saved somebody's lives from them, I stopped thinking about myself. And I stopped thinking about my comfort and my safety and all of this because I got way beyond this. And now I'm kind of important role of providing all this help, and because I know how much effect it has on our guys fighting on the front line, as I was there, and I know how is this where you, for example, doesn't have even power bank to charge your phone or charge your electronics or charge your night vision, and I'm able to provide this on a weekly and monthly basis in a level which is sufficient for a whole battalion of several hundred people. There is no stopping. There is no stopping, no matter tiredness, no matter exhaustion, no matter stress, no matter anything. I'm a Christian. I identify as a Christian and I believe in God because I saw so many miracles here already in Ukraine that God is my witness and God is our protector. Everything will work out and there is no understanding and no doubt that it will be anyhow otherwise, because we are not talking about peace or war in Ukraine. We are talking about world order. We are talking about West. We are talking about democracy. We are talking about freedom. And we are standing literally good versus evil, West versus East, the democracy and independence and freedom against authoritative, totalitarian regime, which suffocate people. There is no freedom. There is no speech. There is no internet. There is nothing. So I cannot imagine a world where we will abandon these values and will come back to Middle Age, where Russia actually is.
You speak about, defending our country, by which you mean Ukraine. It seemed to me that you are kind of oscillating between being a Czech and feeling Ukrainian. In case everything kind of works out, whatever happens with the front, how much Ukraine, Russia might actually, still control, etc. How do you see your future?
They were asking me like what I will do after war. And I'm saying I will prepare for next war. there will be unfortunately no stopping, and Russia said it pretty clearly. They want whole Ukraine, they want Baltic states, they want Georgia, they want possibly Poland, and they want other countries. So no matter if there will be some ceasefire or peace or stopping of the war for a year or two, it will continue 100%. So even though we will win, we will deoccupy Crimea, we will deoccupy whole Ukraine, it will be just a matter of time before war will start again. So we will be just preparing for another one, no matter if I'll come for a few years back to Czech Republic or I will stay here. Unfortunately, and this is the grim scenario, I'm 37 and I'm saying that first 35 years of life I was living in a peace, and now I will live the rest of my life, unfortunately, in war, unless the world will stand more strongly and more coherently behind us, and we will stop this once for all. Because only thing which Russia actually understand is a strong position that we will not allow this. Till we will not have this stand, Russia will continue with the expansion, imperialistic efforts to just expand.
Is there perhaps a message that you would have for people who are somehow connected to Czechia, to our country, who listen to this broadcast in English concerning Ukraine and concerning perhaps the Czech, I would say, still quite strong support for Ukraine? What would you say?
When you wake up in the morning, you forget or you never realized that you live in a peace. You may forget that you have freedom of expression and you have freedom of speech. You somehow think that you will get dressed, have a breakfast, go to work, and everything will work just fine. That's unfortunately not the case for us, and it may not be a case for you in the future, because all of this, what I said, is nothing you inherit. Is nothing, or is nothing which is standard for modern civilization. The democracy, the freedom, and all of this what we have is something which millions of people fought and died during First and Second World War. Unfortunately, we forget about this and we became complacent and became comfortable. And there is real danger that we will lose these things once again, as we Czechs knows, as Polish people know, as Europeans knows from these wars. So please do realize that these things are not normal. These are things for which we need to fight. These are things for which we need to do something, otherwise we may lose them. And we are seeing this in Ukraine. And the question is if the support, your support, will be strong enough so we are able to stop it, or it will be spread. And then, as I said like a year ago in different interview, in regards of the peace, there are three options. We may either lose millions of people, which we at this point lost million on both sides. We will lose millions. Or there is a second option, which means that we will lose whole nation, Ukrainian nation of 44 million people before war. Or we may lose the West, the world order, which we relied on the last 250 years. And as insane it sounded to me when I was saying this a year ago, it seemed the question of today's, because of what Trump is doing, because of Trump's alliance with Russia, and all of this, that West, not just these millions of people may die, that not just we may lose Ukraine, but we may lose West as it is. And then everything is possible. And we cannot allow this to happen. This is the question. This is the task of our generation. And it's all happening here in Ukraine right now, today. So whatever you can do, even $50, even $500, even $2. Somebody was asking me, if I have $10 or $5, what can I do? What difference this can make? I can tell you what difference it can make. You can buy one AA battery, which costs 50 cents, $1 maybe. And this battery is the difference between life and death if you can charge your night vision while you are fighting. And I can tell from my experience, one of my friends died because he didn't have this battery. He went to fight during the morning, and he went to the trenches and he was shot to his head by Russian because he did not see him. So everything makes difference. And as I read it on internet, and I think it's a really nice quote, fight with the evil which you can. Pick whatever you can, do something. Because it's the same as people were saying about Second World War. If I would be in Nazi Germany and I knew what they were doing to Jews, I would help. Of course you would not help. Or many people would not help. Same as many people are not helping today. Many people would be on the side of Nazi Germany. As many people, no matter for which reason, are on the side of Russia. No matter how crazy it is for everybody who thinks, who have any knowledge, who have any understanding, or who has even high school education and knows history of what Russia is doing. So do whatever you can, because now the future is literally deciding for all of us, not just for Ukraine.
Possible if it's not, I don't know, if it's not a sensitive, confidential information. In the international settings where you are there dozens of Czechs? Are there hundreds of Czechs? Are there only individual people from Czech Republic?
Unfortunately, I cannot comment on specific numbers because it's classified information. Same as how big is International Legion and this information. I can tell you what is public. And public is that there is 20 to 40,000 foreign fighters in Ukraine. Many of them are within International Legion. But what's more important than how many Czechs or any other nationalities there is that the Czech language, Czech country and Czech help to Ukraine is visible everywhere. And for me as a Czech, it's for the first time actually in my life, huge honor to be here amongst our countrymen, among Ukraine, amongst Westerners, to be as a Czech and to be thanked for our help of Ukrainian refugees, for our help mainly from our president, Mr. Pavel, and his ammunition initiative, for opening as the first Czech embassy, and many other things for which I'm recognized here as a Czech, as a country which is helping so much, which is something completely different to Americans, which are walking and apologizing for American government and American president, because none of them agrees with any of that what he's saying, and they are humiliated as everybody, same as everybody, because of Trump.
You've been listening to Jan Trčka, Czech by birth, Ukrainian by choice of battle. His words are raw, his mission personal, and his resolve unshaken. At a time when Europe remembers the end of a war that scarred an entire continent, we are reminded that peace is never permanent. It must be protected, sometimes at a terrible price. Jan Trčka is not just fighting for Ukraine, he's fighting for the idea that democracy, freedom, and human dignity are worth defending, even when the odds are overwhelming. If this conversation moved you, like me, challenged you, or gave you a new perspective, please share it. Let others hear what war sounds like, not in slogans or headlines, but in the voice of someone who wakes up to it every morning. This is Czechast, I'm Vít Pohanka. Thank you for listening, and as always, stay curious, but also stay aware, stay engaged, and stay human. Naslyšenou.
Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. Whether you're an English-speaking expat living in Czechia and Slovakia, or a descendant of the Czechs, Moravians and Slovaks who left for a better life in America, Australia, Britain or Canada so long ago that you don't speak the language of the old country, this podcast in English is for you.